It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted. Like the gold standard in automotive protection, WeatherTech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What? WeatherTech me.
So don't be shy, enjoy.
WeatherTech.
Order your premium American-made products at WeatherTech.com.
Experience the ultimate thrill, Porsche GT Track Day, where passion meets performance on some of North America's most legendary racetracks. Designed exclusively for Porsche owners, this is your chance to unleash the full potential of your vehicle in a motorsport environment. Drive the same circuits as professional racers, on the same weekend as Porsche Sprint Challenge events. Where will your Porsche take you? With limited space, every Porsche GT Track Day ensures a premium, exclusive experience. You'll get nearly 3 hours of track time, starting with reconnaissance laps, progressing through lead-follow sessions, and culminating in exhilarating open laps. Plus, strap in for heart-pounding hot laps with a professional race driver.
I thought I was fast. Didn't resemble anything that I've ever done.
Beyond the track, immerse yourself in VIP hospitality, premium viewing areas, and exclusive paddock access where you can witness Porsche Sprint Challenge teams in action. Spots are limited. Scan the QR code now to reserve your place at Porsche GT Track Day.
With mountain ranges encircling the venue, Burt Brothers Motorpark is a picturesque affair, but our drivers will be a bit more focused on the track in front of them as we get ready for qualifying in the Porsche Sprint Challenge USA West Series. I am Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is TDI Cup alumni Joey Atterbury. Joey, it's gone through a lot of names, but the challenge remains at this super fast track.
Yeah, like you said, it is now Burt Brothers Motorpark, just located outside of Tooele and about 40 minutes outside of what is Salt Lake City, just by about, like I said, 35, 40 minutes. It's a 23-turn, 4.48-mile facility, of which we're going to be using about 15 of those apexes this weekend in the outer layout. And there's a couple of cool things here at this motor park. We are located, like I said, just outside of Salt Lake, so we've got those picturesque mountains just off in the background of us. But this racetrack, relatively flat when it comes to elevation. There is some elevation out there, but like I said, relatively flat. A couple key areas to take a note of. Turn number 1. Great passing opportunity. You see the huge long straightaway here. That means the cars are going to be up at their top speed, which means a big braking zone down there into turn number 1. Also, look towards turn number 5, the Black Rock hairpin. That's another great passing location as well, especially if a car gets out of shape in those corners leading up to it. And now, go over to the attitudes. This is where we're really going to see the elevation in the racetrack. The cars are going to have to manage over those curbs, really be able to handle those Porsches out there through those turns. Then it comes up to sector 3 down there. Turn number 23, release is what it's known as. You got to make sure to get through that technical sector 3 in order to get the drive out onto that straightaway, Joe.
Without a doubt, as we see some of the cars now heading out to the pit exit being released here, and somewhat of a warm day at nearly 80 degrees out in the air temperature, very little wind to speak of. But as you tend to see up here in the mountains, very clear skies, beautiful blue Utah skies as the drivers start to warm up the tires as they weave their way around on the outlaps. Joey, we're at places such as Sonoma earlier where the track position was so important. What about here? Do you think passing is going to be possible, or is this going to be an important session?
I definitely think that passing is possible here at this Burt Brothers Motor Park. I highlighted that long front straightaway. I think it's actually the longest straightaway that we've seen so far this season. So that means the draft is going to come into effect. You're going to sit in that slipstream, look for that brake marker down at the end of that front straightaway there, and really put all of your skills to test to be able to see if you can threshold brake and make those late passes there, especially at the speed some of these GT3 Cup cars and also those Cayman GT4 cars are doing out there. They are not going slow at the end of the front straightaway here. And then I had also mentioned that turn 5, that Black Rock hairpin. I think that one's going to be another great passing location, Joe, simply because it feeds from a couple of corners going into that hairpin. So if you've got a car that's maybe half a car width off of the racing line, it might just provide that opportunity to sneak down underneath them.
Do like that we have our nice little class legend here at the bottom. So if you're watching the tower on the left-hand side, that's how you know which class you are looking at. And as well, it also lines up with the boxes on the sides of the cars physically, so you can see in the camera shots. But 4 different classes with the 992, seeing the Pro-Ams and the Masters. And then the same thing with the Caymans, albeit Jack Perriott going to be our lone Pro-Am driver. He's basically trying to race the entire field to see how high up he can finish here today. He's been making great strides, honestly, in his pace these first few rounds that we've watched since Spring Mountain off to Sonoma and then Dakota. Let's see if he can keep that up here today as launching off that final corner out of release down to Sunset Bend. We start to see some hot laps fly.
Yeah, like you said, this is down the front straightaway here, and you see how long it is going down into what is turn number 1. Not an incredibly sharp sunset bend down there, but it is enough to really slow the cars down to about third gear or so, and then turns 1, 2, and 3. This is that right-hander dreamboat. You got to really carry the speed through here. And then this is kind of coming up to an interesting section here. This is 3 and 4, 2 apexes of left-handers. This one also known as Scream. And now you go down this short shoot straightaway. This is that Black Rock hairpin I was telling you about. Turn number 5. It'll be a good passing location this weekend.
Yeah, I expect a number of drivers to be trying things into there, no doubt. But you can see it's an interesting exit as they come out of Black Rock, and then the combination of right hook and knockout going to be difficult with it switching sides for these cars. This is the part that I always found interesting. One of the few elevation changes throughout the lap, Joey, and also some of my favorite corner names: First Attitude, Second Attitude, and Bad Attitude.
You know, it's an incredibly cool section of this racetrack to drive. Now, I got the fortunate opportunity to compete way back here about 10 years ago in some sedans, some production-based sedans, and they had some yellow cones out there that I see that they've opted to take those away and put up those tire bundles, Joe. I think that's a much more effective deterrent to keep those drivers off of those apex curbs.
No doubt those will do some serious damage. So you need to make sure and hit your markers through there so that you don't wind up clattering into those. As this is the end of the lap, and Scott Blend is our first one to complete that first lap at a 53.5. Daniel Hanley in with a 53.7. So pretty close between those two. Granted, they are in separate classes, but overall 992 sees Scott Blend without a surprise kind of picking up where he left off at Coda.
Yeah, and you know, unfortunately for him in that endurance challenge event, didn't really get to finish that one. So it's good to see the car back out there on the racetrack, and like you said, kind of picking up where he left off in terms of the West Series, always winning out there at Coda. This guy is pretty much unstoppable when you put him behind the wheel of one of these GT3 Cup cars.
Meanwhile, the 267 of Siegel, I think a bit of a new name out here this weekend. Matthew Siegel And the Air Power 992 is coming around on his second lap. His first one good enough for a 56.5. That'll be third on the grid for him. How about Tom Rogers? Put it on the quickest lap in the Caymans, and actually kind of mixing it up with a few of the 992s, it looks like. So phenomenal lap. Greg Herback, though, up onto the front row, still looking for that first win of the season.
Yeah, I think it's kind of been that Rogers, Herback, Smith battle when we talk about those Cayman GT4s this season. And all three of them have been incredibly closely matched in terms of their performance levels out there at all the racetracks we've been to. And of course, don't forget about Henry Marshall as well. That's the fourth Cayman that we've got out here this weekend. He won those opening rounds back there at Las Vegas. So that's another Cayman driver to keep an eye out for.
Still looking so close up at the front row of the 992s. This latest lap looks like it is not an improvement for Blend. Oh, no, actually, I believe it is, as he jumps it down to 53.2. So now that's 2/10 ahead of, oh, no, that's Siegel. Excuse me. So Siegel is the one that has jumped up ahead now onto the provisional pole in the 2:67 second lap, a huge jump up because he was in the 56s last time around. So whatever he needed to improve upon in that first lap, he has made a massive jump.
You're right, and those are in the same class, so they're both in that Pro-Am class. So right now, about call it half a second ahead of Brandon Hankins in that 295. So, Joe, kind of to your point, Scott Blend has actually fallen down to what is third overall. Now, he still leads that Masters category in terms of that pole position at a 153.2, but I think the ultimate lap time that we're looking for, everybody wants to be on top of the board right now, is Siegel at a 52.74.
Been watching Wilgus, who currently sits fourth in class, trying to improve his position. Interesting that we've only got Blend, Larkins, and Chiacchetti in the Masters this weekend for the 992s. Oof, a lot of curb there, bouncing off of knockout there for Wilgus, trying to use up as much of the track as possible. What's the surface like around here, Joey? Is this, from your experience, at least a long time ago, I guess at this point, is it a pretty bumpy circuit?
Yeah, when I was there, it was very nice and smooth. I got to race here with the Volkswagen TDI Cup was when the very first time I got to race here, and then also got to come here out in Grand Am competition with the GS cars as well. So something very, very similar to that Cayman GT4 platform that we see out here. But yes, through the years, this racetrack is located essentially in the middle of the desert out here. We talk about Salt Lake being in the mountains, but trust me, this is not the mountain area of Utah. It has a lot of sand and rock that can kind of get blown over the racetrack, Joe. And when you have all of that abrasive material kind of scooting across the concrete, it doesn't always blow off all the way to the other side. So some of it can actually get embedded into the racetrack. And through some of these Yokohama shots as well from the aerial coverage side of things, actually see a few little areas that they've actually gone through and patched a few things. So yes, the racetrack's still very smooth. The Porsches will be very, very happy, but it is up to the driver to essentially put those Yokohama tires as they need to, as we see a spin out there in turn number 1 on the racetrack.
So car facing the wrong way just before Dreamboat. And they've got the yellow flags out. This is going to compromise a few people who are starting their flyer as we watch the 295 carry on out of Scream and into Black Rock Hairpin. So we'll see how much that compromised him. Not seeing a number on which car that was that we had turned around, unfortunately. That may have been Larkins, I believe, but I'll double check on that. And not seeing anything in terms of carrying on. Yep, looks like they have carried on at this point. So we're back to green flag, full course.
And I think that we're going to see that a few times this weekend. I mentioned that turn number 1 is such a great opportunity for making those passes because you are so hard on the brakes after getting that top speed down the straightaway. So you've got all the weight on the front end of this car. You use it to help turn the car. But what happens if you get a little bit too much front end bite in the thing? The rear end starts to slide a little bit, and it's up to the driver to manage that car control. And sometimes you just can't catch it quite quick enough.
At least not in this situation. as we had at least our first incident that we've seen out on track during the qualifying session. Otherwise, been relatively clean in these early stages. Only get about 20 minutes to try and set their fastest time out there, but we're only 5 minutes into it, so it looks like this should be plenty for them to try and set a good one. Brandon Hankins had an interesting weekend as well back out at COTA, maybe trying to bounce back after a poor end of the race, unfortunately, and has got himself onto the front row, but he's about 4/10 off of newcomer Siegel right now.
And I think he's just kind of taking it easy, probably maybe even on a cool down lap or a warm up lap going through what is turn number 1 and 2 out there. So, yeah, we'll have to see if this 295 car, Joe, going back to COTA just a couple weeks ago, I mean, he was in the thick of it. Remember, he had that little bit of contact, I believe it was with Jim Walsh, deep into that brake zone off of turn number 12. But ever since then, he got in that other chassis and was really able to kind of perform right in the middle of those races.
Yeah, I should, you make a good point. Should clarify that it was just at the very end of the race that things went south. Otherwise, it was a fantastic weekend. Just didn't give him the results that he wanted. As we ride on board with Blend, current pole sitter in the Masters class for the 992s right now. And the other thing about being out in this area in the desert is, as you can see, it is also very bright out.
Checking out the 240. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, yeah, just we're getting visual here that it is not their typical bright yellow livery that they have. So they've gone with a sort of black and white scheme, it looks like, this time around.
Yeah, so this is the 245. And I believe, Joe, if memory serves me correct, wasn't this was it Luke French's car back at Spring Mountain?
Yeah, that's a good point. Now that I'm looking closer at it, it is indeed his car. So he's hopped into that one. Haven't got to see Luke since. Yeah, exactly. Luke proved what it can do. So no worries about that from Scott. But yeah, and we haven't got to see Luke since Sonoma, unfortunately, was not able to make it to COTA. Don't see him here this weekend either, sadly. But that car going to get some action out on track regardless. And third overall. Scott's not going to sit for that. If I know him, he's going to want the overall pole position here.
100%. And, he's used to jumping between the different chassis. Now, obviously, spends a ton of time in these 992 GT3 Cup cars. They do all feel just a little bit different. Doesn't matter which chassis you get into, but once you're in there, you'll kind of figure out the P's and Q's of everything and feel right at home. And the car we're riding on board with right now is actually number 13 car. This is on board with Jack Perriott here. Oh, a little bit loose there in turn number 1. Joe, that was almost a similar moment that we saw out of that GT3 Cup car that actually went around in turn number 1. Seems like the car's nice and stable getting in, but it's that transition of rolling from the brake to the throttle that is catching some of these drivers.
Exactly. And I'd say still it's looking pretty good because third out of all the Caymans right now for Jack Perriott. Compare that to what we saw at Spring Mountain, where he was bringing up the tail end of the field and just kind of figuring things out. He's, I'd say, well and truly embedded himself in this team and found how to get speed out of this car. I'm really impressed with how he's improved each and every weekend. And we should note that he's the son of fellow racer Todd Perriott. So I'm sure Todd's been doing everything he could to try and help him out every step of the way. And I'd say it's working.
And I just saw a great example of heads-up driving from Jack Perriott right there, who we were focused on. You saw Scott Blend in this black Cup car kind of come up in the mirror, and then all of a sudden realized, okay, well, I'm not on a hot lap. What can I do to help not get in the way of my competitors? He simply lifted off of the gas. Scott saw that, was able to drive around it, and that's part of all getting all along on the playground out here, Joe, is that don't want to hold others up.
Exactly. It's a qualifying session with 14 cars out there. Actually 13, I believe, because it doesn't look like Chiacchetti has gotten onto track yet here. But that's plenty of space with a minute 50 around this place, 2 minutes if you're in the Caymans. as one of them heads on into pit lane. Now, we should see maybe a few more of them starting to do that, Joey, because one of the interesting things about this series is the fact that they will use these tires in the race themselves. So the more laps they do here in qualifying, the more life they're taking out of them.
100%. And these Yokohama tires are absolutely fantastic. They will give you the grip all qualifying session plus all race session, but it is still up to the drivers to manage that grip level. If you go and abuse the tires a little bit too much on the front, well, guess what? You're going to have to kind of suffer the consequences of maybe having to manage them for another corner or two until they kind of come all the way back to you. But you're right, Joe. If you do more laps on the tires here in qualifying, that just means a little bit less grip once we come to the race time.
In fact, it looks like many of them have pitted in already, if I'm reading time and scoring correctly here. As it's Krigler still out there and Henry Marshall as well. This is Krigler that we've got on screen in that 204, sitting 7th out of all of the 992s, but 5th within his Pro-Am class, trying to make up a bit here. I think, yeah, he is last amongst the 992s that have set a time. So it's probably good reason that he's still working on trying to find a bit. And he's just got to get himself, it looks like a couple seconds here. Excuse me. It looks like, 1.7 seconds or thereabouts to try and get up to Larkins. This last lap for him, not an improvement, unfortunately. So still sitting at that 56.9.
And if we're looking at the lap times right now, it is still Siegel on top of the board in that Pro-Am class. That lap time is a 152.74. In terms of the Masters class, it is Scott Blend on top right now, a 153.20. So call it about a half a second off of that ultimate time from those Cup cars out there. And then we go back to our Cayman Masters class right now. Tom Rogers, a 158.28. Actually a handy lead over Greg Herback. And then Joe, the driver we were just mentioning out there, Jack Perriott, still holds that Pro-Am provisional pole at a 159.97.
Yeah, it's not too bad in comparison to Rogers. But I tell you what, Rogers over Herback, that front row, it's 1.6 seconds. Tom is really on it today. So if Greg wants to finally tick that box of getting a win, it looks like he is going to have to really find something between this qualifying session and the race itself later this afternoon.
If you ask me and look at the Cayman GT4 class here in the West Series, I mean, it's Rogers, Herback, Smith, and Marshall. Consider Bradshaw in it as well, but it really has kind of been the three-pack up front of Rogers, Herback, and Smith. And out of those three, Joe, I think that there kind of has been one emerging as kind of the leader of the group. It has been Tom Rogers. He's been consistently up front in that class. He has made a few mistakes. He is not invincible out there. Remember, I had mentioned that Henry Marshall won the first race out there at Spring Mountain. I believe that Tim Smith also won a race back there at Sonoma. So Tom Rogers is not invincible by any means, but I think everybody else is trying to steal it away from him every session.
It certainly feels like it. He's got the target on his back at this point. But that's it for Krigler. And that's the last of our cars coming to pit in. Didn't even need the full 20-minute session, which I think is a good sign. Because to me, that says, Joey, that the drivers felt like they got the most out of it.
100%. The drivers must be satisfied with their performance level out there. Otherwise, they would continue to turn laps and continue to improve out there. The other thing to kind of consider, Joe, is that if the teams are seeing it's a little bit more of a high abrasive racetrack in terms of that surface, you don't want to put more laps on the tires than what you need to, going back to that point that you had mentioned just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, so it's sort of that weighing the risk versus reward. Is it worth risking more life out of the tires because you think you can get more out of it? And answer seems to be for these drivers that they, for the most part, feel as though that is the best they can do without just getting minimal gains out there at this stage. But lovely overhead view here, both of the pit facility, and you can even see the go-kart track, which I don't know if you got to do it in your time here, Joey. I had a chance to race there last year. We got the team out on there. Unfortunately, I thought that I had the slow go-kart, but I found out later, no, apparently I'm not as quick as I thought.
It is a pretty cool go-kart facility that's located directly next to the paddock right here. The only time that I've unfortunately gotten the ability to go out there and race on it was actually during a competition weekend. And Joe, I don't know if you've ever been out there on a competition weekend where you get all the racers with their rental car helmets. They don't have their actual racing helmets, so they don't seem to care as much. And all of a sudden, you get shoved off the racetrack. It really becomes almost an off-road contact sport.
That's fantastic. With 4 minutes left, the drivers obviously doing everything they can to save the tires. Very smart move from them. We'll be back in just a little bit. We'll have a quick commercial, and then we'll bring you the end of the session and the results.
Experience the ultimate thrill, Porsche GT Track Day, where passion meets performance on some of North America's most legendary racetracks. Designed exclusively for Porsche owners, this is your chance to unleash the full potential of your vehicle in a motorsport environment. Drive the same circuits as professional racers, on the same weekend as Porsche Sprint Challenge events. Where will your Porsche take you? With limited space, every Porsche GT Track Day ensures a premium, exclusive experience. You'll get nearly 3 hours of track time, starting with reconnaissance laps, progressing through lead-follow sessions, and culminating in exhilarating open laps. Plus, strap in for heart-pounding hot laps with a professional race driver.
I thought I was fast. Didn't resemble anything that I've ever done.
Beyond the track, immerse yourself in VIP hospitality, premium viewing areas, and exclusive paddock access where you can witness Porsche Sprint Challenge teams in action. Spots are limited. Scan the QR code now to reserve your place at Porsche GT Track Day.
Welcome back to Burt Brothers Motorpark here in Utah. We are just watching the last minutes tick down on our qualifying. The drivers have ended it a bit early. If you missed out before now, this is because they have to use these tires at the start of race one. So they're just trying to save the rubber underneath them now that they feel like they've got the most out of it. Did find it interesting. We got a bit more information on Scott Blend, not in his normal car. They're renting this car apparently. And he's so eager for the track time, Joey. He flew his entire crew out just to run the car here for the USA West, because he doesn't normally run the USA West Series.
No, typically not. We typically see him out there on the Sprint Challenge North America weekends, as well as doing the Endurance Challenge. But then, of course, what we have seen Scott do is when we have those West Series events in conjunction, he actually does all of the racing out there. So talk about trying to fit in as much track time as humanly possible. That's exactly what Scott Blend and that Ruckus Racing team are trying to do out here at Utah as well.
Exactly. It's been paying off. He's just been so quick this season. He was one race short at Circuit of the Americas here in Porsche Sprint Challenge and Endurance Challenge of winning every race he entered in. And the only reason he didn't, as Joey mentioned, is because he got taken out lap one, turn one in the endurance race. And that was it. And even after starting from pole, I can only imagine the frustration he felt. Maybe this is him trying to just prove a point and rebound, Joey.
Well, that's what you need to do as a racing car driver, right? If you have a bad race, you need to get back into the car quicker than what you think you need to, because as long as you start moving back on that upward momentum swing, that's what you need. Climb that mountain again. Forget about those lows. There's always highs and lows in racing. And trust me, unfortunately, there usually is a lot more lows than there are highs in racing. So forget about it. Keep on swimming out there. Get back into a car. Go out there, do laps, go do a race. And that's exactly what Scott is doing.
Yeah, you're right. It's the odds are against you. There can only be one winner out there, so you're not going to be winning them all the time. Meanwhile, We are just about done here with 3 seconds left. I think we can call the official order. So here is your finishing order. Matt Siegel taking the overall pole today in the 992s, with Brandon Hankins going to be starting next to him. Scott Blender, pole sitter in the Masters, will be third overall. Daniel Hanley will be fourth. And then you've got Wilgis starting P5. Larkins second in the Masters, but 6 overall. Krigler there in 7th position. Then you've got Tom Rogers on the pole for the Cayman Masters. Greg Herback in second. Perriott, third overall in the Cayman classes, but he's our lone pro-am. And you've got Tim Smith in the third position in class. Henry Marshall fourth, and Bradshaw rounding out your top 5. Well, glad to see, Joey, that other than a single spin, that was pretty clean. That bodes well for the race.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the race this afternoon. Going to have all these Porsches lined up, ready to take the green flag at Utah soon enough.
With that, the car's heading back to the paddock. We will be back for racing later on this afternoon. Join us for race 1 at 3:25 p.m. Mountain Time here at Burt Brothers Motorpark.